Hey everyone, and welcome to this special Snake Oilers edition of the Risky Business Podcast. My name's Patrick Gray. Snake Oilers isn't our regular weekly podcast. It is a wholly sponsored series we do here at Risky.biz, where vendors come onto the show to pitch their products to you, the Risky Business listener. So to be clear, everyone you hear in one of these editions paid to be here. If you are looking for the weekly show, just scroll one episode back in your podcast feed. Now, in this edition of Snake Oilers, we'll be hearing from Google Security. Anton Chuvakin is appearing on their behalf to talk more about how switching to its cloud-native SIEM actually makes sense these days. Paul McCarty from SecureStack will be along to talk through their latest stuff. And that's interesting, actually, because they're doing software composition analysis that includes a lot more information than just what code is going into an application. Like what services is the application using, which APIs, that sort of thing. They've also built some really nice compliance tools where you can do like a single scan and see how you measure up against various compliance regimes. Screen caps of that one look fantastic, actually. But those two are coming up later on. But first up, we're going to talk with Vectra. Now, Vectra was historically a network detection and response vendor, and one of the better ones too, and they still do that stuff. But instead of just taking network taps out of cloud environments and saying, we do cloud security, Vectra is actually doing cloud-based detection sensibly by examining stuff like AzureAD and CloudTrail logs, right? So they've still got the NDR piece, but everybody's heard the generic NDR pitch a million times. So I thought for this interview, I would zero in on the new stuff with the talent, who is Vectra's SVP of Products, Kevin Kennedy. So here he is.
On the network, you get data that is very consistent, and it's the same in any network. When you're looking at all of these different applications, so we do identity, that includes AzureAD, it includes AD. We do control planes, so things like AWS control plane. We do SaaS applications, Microsoft 365, all of those. It's not just that the data format is different, it's that the threat is different. The way that it's going to be attacked is different. And so the way we've approached it is we have built a platform similar to what we had done before on the network side. You grab packets really fast, you build up these models over time that learn what's happening, so that you can then detect methods in real time, attacker methods in real time. We've taken a similar approach with the cloud. So you think about what are the things that people do when they attack AzureAD. There's a sign-in component. There's things that you've talked about on the show, like federating domain trust, like installing OAuth apps. We're watching for all of those types of attack methods and using ML to really pull those out in ways that are durable. Each new application, each new attack surface that we look at, we have to do the security research, define the attack methods. You can think of this like MITRE, the whole attack TTP thing. You've got to dissect the methods, then build models based on the data that you have in order to find those methods accurately. So that's really what we do and how we find the threats in each of these surfaces. And then you've got to stitch them all together, right? So you got to know that this account in AD is the same as this account in Azure AD is the same as this credential in AWS, and tie that together to give the full narrative of the threat.
Talk us through the cloud side, because this is the stuff that's new to the show, to me, right? This is the stuff that I'm interested in. What's what's something that you can detect? What's some sort of malicious thing that you can detect with the cloud native telemetry? Because that's not much to our surprise. That's not a big part of the industry yet, despite the fact that everybody operates in the cloud.
Yeah, when there's multiple chunks of the cloud. So if I start and look at Azure AD, so cloud identity, right? So Azure AD, imagine looking at the sign-in, which is the leading edge. Every sign-in attempt, analyze it, and so there's these obvious ways to look for a sign-in that is malicious, and there's often these like impossible travel, and it's a new location, and those are just incredibly noisy. And so we do look at every sign-in that's coming in, and we look at, there's 22 different features that we're analyzing. both at a user level and for the entire organization, about the device type, the user agent, where is it coming from, the posture, what was the method that was used to access, so that you can pull out what's malicious, but then go deeper and look at things like, are OAuth apps being installed? And what is the commonality of that OAuth app?
Yeah, so this login
right?
might only look a little bit shady, but then there's some little bit shady actions that happen afterwards, and that
Yes.
sort of elevates the yeah.
And so that increases
that's
it,
it,
or
right?
you're
Context.
federating domain trust. Yeah.
Federating domain trust after a slightly suspicious login makes it look a little bit more suspicious.
Yep.
So that's on the authentication, authenticating user side and user action side. Can you think of another concrete example that you can give the audience?
Sure. So I'll keep that's AzureAD, and there's a bunch of different methods that are covered there. And then you look at AzureAD.
By the way, I will say, like, it just blows my mind that a lot of the IDPs don't do this stuff. They do some of it, but it surprises me how little they do in that space. And I think it really is just that support overhead, because you can occasionally get false positives. But yeah, I'm just amazed they don't tune it up more. But anyway, go. Other cloud stuff.
Yeah, so other cloud stuff, if I keep on that sort of a train, you can look then deeper into Microsoft 365, which is, there's such a ton of data and reliance on M365. And it's an incredibly powerful suite of applications. And that's great for users, but it also provides a lot of tools for attackers. So, one of them that's very interesting is Power Automate. And Power Automate it's kind of like PowerShell is in the network world, but in M365. So I can now set up connectors and flows that can do anything automatically. So imagine every time an email comes in, grab that file, put it into my OneDrive or into a Dropbox. That's really convenient for me as a user, because I'm never going to lose my attachments, but it's also incredibly useful for an attacker.
See, this is the sort of stuff, that I wanted to talk about, because it's like you can't repurpose a network detection device to pick up on stuff like that, because it's not going to see it.
Yes, exactly. And so you have to understand what data you're getting. And in this case, with, for example, Power Automate, in order to really understand it, you need to see first what's in the audit log, but then you also need to make calls back to then dig into what is the actual flow that's being defined, because that data isn't available in the audit log. So you need to follow up to get it. So it's a very specialized interaction to pull the data that you need to feed the model and get the outcomes that you need. But if you're not looking at that sort of thing, imagine one login, set up a Power Automate rule, sit back and the data just comes to the attacker. They never have to log in again. They can stay masked for months, because what else are you going to see if you can't find that Power Automate flow? So these are the types of things, and all sorts of other native behaviors. It could be mailbox rules. It could be adding users in teams, like all that sort of native functionality. That's the type of stuff that we're monitoring and looking for threats against. And then if you move into, say, the AWS control plane.
That was literally going to be my next question, but yes, thank you.
Sure. So if you move into the AWS control plane, which is another really interesting one, I mean, you can think about, there's always the classic examples of, you leave an S3 bucket open. Yeah, sure, that's relatively straightforward. But there's also looking at, one of the challenges in AWS is the way that identity works. Roles can assume roles, entities can assume roles, credentials can assume roles. So first thing you actually have to do is track all of that and follow all of that role assumption to understand what's going on. But once you do that, you can look for things like enumerating secrets via APIs. So are you looking for secrets? Are you looking for services? Are you launching new EC2 instances? Are you changing and modifying container registries? All those types of activities that are back to the network thing, you're not going to see that on the network.
No, so
they're not visible on the network.
I was going to ask, is this would all be CloudTrail stuff, right?
That's CloudTrail, yeah. And there's interesting like CloudTrail, CloudWatch.
Are you pulling from other APIs as well? Yeah.
So the two that are relevant there, CloudTrail for AWS, CloudTrail, CloudWatch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't. This is all very new to me. It's all very new to me, Kevin. What about on the GCP side? I'd imagine, you're just kind of doing the similar sort of stuff. And it makes sense too that, like, it seems a bit daunting when you're outside the space, like I am, right? Because this cloud thing's big and scary and new. But I guess, the attacker methodologies, a lot of them are going to look the same. So you're not going to have to necessarily eat the whole buffalo, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there are similarities in the attacker methodologies, but each of these cloud environments is different.
Yeah.
The way that the identity works is different. The way that their services work and interact are different. And so this goes back to this is not, it's not easy. You actually have to go in and do the research for each of the domains. You have to understand the data for each of the domains. And it's quite a heavy lift. And it's one of the things that end user organizations really struggle with is, like, on the network side, it's hard to get the data at scale. Here, everyone has the data. You can get these logs. What do you do with them, right? Do you have people who can sit around and build models? Like, we have dedicated teams who spend all day, every day building all of these models, maintaining all of these models as services change and evolve. And that's, really one of the values that we see is like, you could theoretically do these in a SIM. You're going to be spending your entire life trying to build and maintain those models in a place where you have a skill shortage. You don't have enough people, like have them do the other stuff. You can buy this, right?
Now, are you unifying really a lot of this stuff with network data? And like, is that even valuable?
Well, it's yes, the bringing that back to that threat narrative, bringing the threat narrative together is really valuable, because you think about, for example, go back to SolarWinds and you attack the premise data center to get to the ADFS cert that then allows you to do the golden SAML attack into AzureAD. Being able to tie those two domains together to say, actually, this is the same activity, these are related, helps you respond. The same thing is true. Like, imagine an attack that starts in AWS, gets some secrets, pivots back into your data center with information. You want to be able to track those and see that it's actually related activity. That's really critical.
Are there a lot of customers buying this just for the cloud stuff? Or is everybody using it across the whole board for, network traffic plus cloud stuff? I mean, what's the primary sort of deployed use case these days for Vectra?
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting because we see a mix. Like we see, certainly we come from an NDR background. So there's a lot of our customers who started on the network and then extended into the cloud with us. We have new organizations who we just had a big bank that signed up and they saw this as an XDR project. So they actually saw the AWS native tools. They saw the Microsoft native tools. They had IDS. They're like, this isn't doing it for us. We need to bring it together. We need to have a better, and for them, it was an AI threat approach. And so they brought us in. They call it an XDR. We have people who look at this as an NDR project, and oh, by the way, we're going to add AWS. We have people who start just in the cloud with say Office 365. They've migrated there. They have a big blind spot. They don't want to build the rules in their SIM, so they start there. We see all sorts of starting points.
Yeah. How chatty is it, right? Like, what's your false positive rate? Do you even know? I guess it would depend on the environment too.
I mean, it depends a little bit, but this goes back to, the methodology is really focused on the method. So, sometimes you will certainly see administrators who have done things that they've never done before that are security relevant. I would say, we're going to generally see 5 to 10% are malicious true positives. 80% of the stuff, 75, 80% will be, I'm really glad I knew that, but it wasn't malicious.
Yeah.
And then you got 10 to 15 where they say, hey, please don't tell me this again. Right? That's kind of the mix that we see.
Now, one nice thing about these cloud services is that I'd imagine provisioning a trial just for that side of it would be quite easy. Do you offer like a free trial, self-provisioned, anything like that? Or is it a contact sales at kind of deal?
Yep. No, you can sign up for free trials on the website, and it's fascinating coming from the network side where you look at look at this large you look at some of these large multinationals, and it's like, hey, that's going to be a 3-month project to
do a POC. Yeah, no, I get it. And that's the thing with
this. It's like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I remember interviewing, like, it was someone actually from Trend Micro, and I think they were among the first of the big AV companies to do a O365 Graph API based anti-malware for email, and they could provision it at lunch. sort of thing, which is like you just cut and paste this thing in here and then hit go and bang, it's done, right? Like crazy.
Yeah, no, we had this battle to get down to how fast could you provision in AWS trial, and we got to this is a very large organization. They have hundreds of AWS accounts in all the regions across the world. They were up and running in 8 minutes.
So if anyone is interested in doing that free trial, and as we just mentioned, like doing it on the cloud side is actually going to be pretty trivial. If you want to have a look at it, head over to Vectra.ai. Kevin Kennedy, thank you so much for joining us to give us your best solid pitch for Vectra. It's been a long time coming, this one, so glad you could get here finally.
Glad to be here, Patrick. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.